Hello everyone, I'm Julie Gudmestad here for YogaUOnline, and today we are going to be working on improving hamstring flexibility, especially for beginners. This is a topic of special interest to me because, of course, so many people come to yoga as beginners with very tight hamstrings. And that tightness can significantly limit your ability to move into certain yoga poses. So I'm encouraging beginners to spend some extra time in your home practice working on your hamstrings because that will reap benefits in many other poses as you continue to progress through yoga and learning more intermediate poses and developing your strength and your flexibility. So it's important to understand where the hamstrings are and a little bit about their nature. So of course they are the three major muscles on the back of your thigh. The contracting part of the muscle is kind of right in the middle, and then it tapers down to tendons. The three tendons that cross the back of the knee and go down to the lower leg. And it originates or attaches up on your sitting bones. The hamstrings are particularly tough material. They have a lot of connective tissue in them, so hamstring flexibility doesn't develop quickly. It takes persistent practice. And by persistent, I mean regular. I would encourage you to work on them if you want to make progress at least 2 or 3 times a week. And perhaps you could take this very sequence that we're going to work on, which should take you 20 minutes to half hour, and just plan on doing that a couple times a week. It's ideal to practice the hamstring stretches when you are warm. So I would not roll out of bed cold in the morning or after long periods of sitting and try to deeply work on stretching your hamstrings. So it's best to do when you're warm, you've had a little walk, you've had some other yoga poses, you've had a hot shower, something to warm up a little bit, and then take that extra time. Whether your hamstrings are tight just because you're new to yoga and you have never stretched them very much, or whether they are tight because of athletic or strengthening activities, whether it's running, cycling, weightlifting. It's important to understand that the hamstrings are going to stretch best with long, gentle stretches. So unfortunately, a 10 or 15 second stretch is probably not going to add up to improvement in the length of the hamstring. So I encourage people to start with a minute and over time build up to 2 minutes. If you can identify a couple of favorite stretches that work well with you, and then build up the time that you spend so that you get a long, deep stretch, and the fibers of the muscles, starting out with a short muscle, over time as you hold the stretch, they will slide over each other, the muscle fibers, and add up to a longer, more flexible muscle. I also encourage you to practice your stretches without pain. It's very simple. When your body feels pain in a muscle, it reacts to that by trying to guard and protect the muscle, and that means the muscle is going to contract and hold itself to protect from injury. So anytime you push a stretch into the pain range, the muscle is actually doing the opposite of stretching. It's contracting and holding. So I very much encourage you to set up your position so that you have a sense of stretch, but don't push so far that you actually go into the pain range. Another concern I have with hamstring stretching is that many of my beginning students have told me when they start stretching their hamstrings in the early years, the main place they feel the stretch is in these big tendons behind the knee. Unfortunately, tendons do not stretch very well. They're made out of tough connective tissue, and they're not supposed to stretch. They're supposed to help stabilize the joint. Any place you find a tendon in the body, the tendon attaches the muscle to the bone near a joint, and it's supposed to help stabilize that joint. So for the most part, we do not want to stretch tendons, because if they get too flexible, it can lead to an unstable, hypermobile joint that can cause problems. So in the case of the hamstrings, we'd like to keep the stretch down here in the belly of the muscle. That's the contracting part, and it's right in the middle of the back of the thigh. So we're going to start today with a little exercise that's not really a yoga pose, but can help you get a feel for the stretch in the belly of the muscle, the middle of the muscle, and not in the tendons. Once you've felt it in this lying down position, hopefully your awareness will help you find that same sense of stretch in the muscle as we go through a few other poses. Then over time, you'll get a feel for how to stretch the hamstrings, and maybe one or two of these poses will speak to you, and you will integrate it into your practice and do it at least a few times a week, and preferably most days. So to get a feel of the stretch in the belly of the hamstring, we're going to start lying on your back. And you're going to keep one foot bent on the floor and bring your other knee towards your chest. In this position, I'm going to interlace my fingers behind the knee, so I'm at the top of the thigh behind the knee, and draw this knee up towards your abdomen and towards your chest. For this whole stretch, we want to keep your thigh down on or very close to your front body. And then I'm going to start to slowly bring my foot towards my head. And it's in bringing your foot this way that eventually you'll start to feel some stretch in the belly of the muscle. When your foot moves away from your head, that takes the stretch out. So it's actually contracting your quadriceps here on the front of the thigh to bring your foot towards the top of your head. And we're also just keeping a little bit of pull down so that your thigh stays close to your chest. So I'm not going like this to straighten the knee. I don't actually care whether your knee gets straight or not. It probably won't, as a matter of fact. So you're contracting your quads, straightening your knee and bringing the foot overhead. And at some point, you'll start to feel some stretch in the belly of the muscle. When you find that point, you want to pause there and breathe. So remember, we want to find the place where there's stretch but not pain. And we're just going to pause there and wait and give the muscle fibers a chance to lengthen and let go. Your breathing, smooth, steady breathing, helps your nervous system relax and will help the stretching muscle to let go. So on the exhale in particular is the natural time of letting go. So you want to feel, you want to visualize these fibers lengthening. Remember how you talk to yourself and what you visualize, your body takes literally. So if you're visualizing iron bands in here or heavy rope, then your body is going to maintain that tightness. But instead, if you picture something like taffy, when you pull on it, it lengthens out. That's a good image to visualize there in your hamstrings. Okay, let's try the other side. I'm going to draw the thigh towards the chest. And then engage the quadriceps on the front as though I was bringing my foot towards my head. Hold the thigh down so I'm not straightening the knee like this. The knee is not going to straighten for most of us. And as I bring the foot over, you pay attention, you're listening, feeling for the sense of stretch. And you want to stop at the point where it feels like stretch, and don't force into the pain range. Sometimes people report they can't find it, and it's usually because they're not activating their quad enough. So if you're having trouble bringing your foot this way, your foot keeps going back like this, you can hold up a little higher on the calf and just help to bring that over. As long as you're staying in the pain-free range, connecting with your breathing, bringing the breath down to the stretch. With each exhale, visualizing that taffy, saltwater taffy, lengthening between the sitting bone and the back of the knee. All right, and then let's let that go. Set the foot down. Like I said, once you've felt the stretch in the middle of the muscle, that hopefully will make it easier to find in other hamstring stretches as we get to them. You're going to roll over on your side and move to another supported hamstring stretch. And this time we're going to move to a doorway. We have moved ourselves to a doorway for our next hamstring stretch. This is not mandatory, but it's a really nice option for people that have tighter hamstrings because we'll use the wall to support the weight of the leg. So we're going to lie down with my right leg through the doorway and my left leg up on the wall. Now, the tighter your hamstrings are, you may need to move further from the wall so that you don't have a painful amount of stretch. If you're more flexible, you can scoot in a little bit closer, and eventually you'll come to the point where your sitting bones are right up against the wall, and that means that you're about at 90 degrees or a right angle. So this is a variation of Supta Padangustasana, classic yoga pose. We've just added support of the weight of the leg because the leg is heavy, and when it's out at an angle, it takes quite a bit of effort to hold up the weight of that leg. So we're going to come back again and see if we can again find and feel that stretch in the belly of the hamstring like we did a moment ago. And then keeping the stretch there, moving slowly. As I straighten my knee, I'm going to come to the support of the wall. So we're not going suddenly to the wall because then the stretch is more likely to come up into the tendon. So if you start wherever it is for you, get the feel of the stretch in the belly, and then as you gradually straighten the knee, find the place, the distance to the wall, so that you keep the stretch there in the center of the muscle. This way, lying on the floor, you can breathe and relax. You're not struggling with a belt trying to hold up the weight of the leg. And take that minute or even two to relax and breathe here. And give the hamstrings a nice, long, gentle stretch. While you're here, we want to pay attention to the rotation of the leg you're stretching. Many people are tighter in the outer hamstring. Not everybody, but a lot of people are tighter in the outer hamstring. And so their leg wants to turn out. And that takes some of the stretch out of the outer hamstring. So you want to look at your foot, see that your foot points straight ahead, and that means also that you're on the center of the heel. Don't emphasize pushing the heel up, because that tends to put more stretch in the calf, and we're really trying to focus right now on the hamstring. So as you lie here, you're going to take that minute or two and again connect with your breathing. Remember the slow, steady breathing. And especially on the exhale is the natural time for that saltwater taffy pull, lengthening starting to happen to your hamstrings. This is an especially nice thing to do after you've gone for your walk or your run or your bike ride. It's also nice at the end of the workday to just have a couple minutes to lie down, relax, breathe. Kind of helps put an end to the workday and get you nice and relaxed for whatever you may have coming up in the evening. Now to come out of this, just bend this knee and roll to your side. And we'll change sides. So often that means moving to the other side of the doorway or finding another place. So I've moved to the other side of the doorway now, and to do the second leg, my right leg. So remember, we were going to start out by bringing the thigh towards the chest and activating the quadriceps. So I'm going to listen for, feel for the stretch coming into the belly of the hamstring. I'm going to extend the other leg through the doorway. And then as I straighten the knee, I'm going to slowly move to the wall, hoping to keep the stretch there in the middle of the muscle. Now remember that you may need to adjust the distance. If I want more stretch, I would move in a little bit closer to the wall. If I want less stretch, if it's painful, I would move further from the wall. And then once I get down here, I want to focus on really relaxing, letting the wall support the weight of the leg. I do want to take one look and make sure that the leg's not turning out or in, but usually it wants to turn out for a lot of people. So I'm on the center of the heel. I'm going to hold and breathe right at the point where I have a gentle or moderate sensation of stretch. And if I can stay and relax into the stretch for a minute or two, remember those fibers are going to be lengthening over each other. And over time, the hamstrings will develop a new length. So on the inhale, belly rises. And then on the exhale, as I let the air out, I'm picturing the lengthening between the sitting bone and the back of the knee. So as much as you can put a positive visualization, connect that with the breath to the stretch. That's going to help these tight hamstrings to learn how to let go. And then when I'm finished, I'm going to bend the knee, both knees, and roll to my side to come up. So we're going to look at some options now away from the doorway. Although, as I said, I do encourage you, if your hamstrings are pretty tight, to stay at the doorway until you can slide your butt in pretty close to the wall. Then that would mean, if this was your other leg, then that would mean you've got about 90 degrees. And at that point, it's much easier to work on the pose away from the doorway.